Hello everyone, welcome to Satsang. Let's make some silence first. And let go. Let go of everything. There is nothing important enough to disturb silence. Abstract from any fluctuation that arises, either physical, emotional, or mental. Just remain untouched. there is a natural tendency at the level of the personality to try to establish a balance, some kind of circumstantial peace, and at the level of the personality, that means no exposition to own fears, no exposition to pain and suffering. It is a mentality of adapting circumstances to what appears to be its own needs. And for some, especially those who are in spirituality, this becomes possible in a way. And as time goes by and the spiritual practice matures, some of these seekers do find a certain level of peace. Not too much demandings from the outer world, and they find some silence there, and they are able to stay there for longer and longer periods. But what they call silence, what they call peace, is actually the fruits of the work of this personality. The silence for the absence of noise, the peace from the absence of suffering. And for those who are here, there is something that you can see that is telling you that and some of these seekers, most of them, they do remain there. They have this silence present, and they occasionally come out of it. And these occasions, they have something in common, and that is when something threatens that safety, something threatens with suffering. Some attachments threaten to leave. There is the threat of loss of something, the loss of peace, the loss of family, the loss of possessions, the loss of this, the loss of that. And when this comes, this slight threat, they immediately come out of this silence. Like a watchdog, for example, that is lying down on his little house, staying there, enjoying the sun, lying down. But when some stranger appears or some noise or something, he immediately jumps to protect that which was entrusted to him. And the same way, this character has created, okay, because it is like this, the idea of own creation. An environment where he sustains a certain level of peace, peace that means absence of suffering, not real peace. And for that he has found some silence, because he has worked a lot previously to protect his life, to create conditions where he will not be in front of his fears. And this he calls peace. And by this absence of struggles and all of this, he is able to remain quiet. And as soon as something comes to threaten that which was established, he immediately changes the mindset. And we can see this in those who have a big amount of peace and others that have just a little bit. Those who have a little bit that don't know more, they think it is a lot, so it is more or less the same outlook. And this comes for them as something like, oh, I was doing so well and I lost it in that moment. I lost balance. There's sometimes this expression, I lost balance. And that expression reveals a lot. Balance is not really, in that context, a synonymous of peace. Balancing those oppositions, all those mental concepts and etc., that is not absence of them. So it's not really peace. It doesn't mean that everything is out of order. It doesn't. What it means is that the practice has to deepen. Because, in a way, your work to establish those circumstances, it has advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantages is that less threats come into your direction. So it takes longer to test the maturity of your work. It takes longer for you to be exposed to fears instead of their absence, because if you're not being exposed, it doesn't mean that they are not there. So this is disadvantage. The advantage is that by those calmer circumstances, you can focus more on silence. But that leaves you with those episodes. And it's like there is a certain distance you can walk. Just a sentence, just an example. There's just a certain distance you can walk. It's like having those elastic cables. You can push them to a certain point, to a certain extent, but then it will pull you again to the beginning. And in this circumstance, you will have to focus on those moments that balance is lost. So you have to intensify silence, going deeper, because usually this is superficial silence. It is more connected to circumstances. And a good way to shake this tree is to intensify or start a meditation practice. Just nothing needs to change. If your practice is to remain at the source, good. But then you can put the posture, meditative posture. Remain in stillness, eyes closed, focusing there, without any distraction. And this change, and if it doesn't matter how the body is, this is what is said. So no problem being at putting the body in that state. Only this for a period of 2 hours, for example, at a turn, will knock out all those structures that were built for that safety purpose. Usually, those who come even close to this, they tend to say, oh no, but this doesn't feel natural. What I was doing is better, I was feeling it better. Of course, because it is about self-preservation. But practice is just warm, mildly warm. And nothing has to change. Just put the meditation posture straight, aligned, and just keep focusing, remaining there. And eventually those moments where you lose balance, they are showing you that the intensity of silence has to become bigger and bigger. That is circumstantial silence only. And this mindset of moving away from discomforts, insecurities, avoiding fears, this mindset has to change. And in those moments where you come out of that silence, it is the moments that your world threatens to crumble a little bit. And from those moments, you can clearly see your attachments there, your fears, everything that is holding you. And that's what you need to break from. And what that means is the importance of remaining at the source, of remaining in that silence, when those threats come, especially when those threats come. Doing nothing to defend, to preserve, accepting whatever comes to be. In some way, sometime that has to become serious. And if you have reached that level, those circumstances, that is good in a way, but you have to make a better use out of them. When the seeker hasn't established his security, it is more challenging, but in more challenging circumstances, one can reap better fruits if he has the conditions for it. So if you have identified yourself with this description that was given, you will see that that silence and that peace was established. It is there, but nothing else is coming. It is not, let's use the word growing. It's not evolving. So there's not the tendency of moving outward, of investing and all of that. Yes, but this connection with this divine presence, it's not increasing, it's not evolving. These are the best words I can find now. It's just that it's like the ocean where the water is still. No wind, no current, nothing. You haven't transcended the ocean. Only there's no wind, no currents, no waves. But still there's the ocean there. You see, people sometimes struggle so much to have a more peaceful life than they actually succeed in that. But that and freedom are two separate things. It's like that analogy. A prison made of iron bars, cement, no conditions, everything uncomfortable, or a prison with golden bars, with silk sheets, with all of the best foods. It is still prison. So most of seekers, they start their quest for well-being, and sometimes they find it. But that doesn't mean that it improves in any way. So if that was what you were looking for, well, okay then you found it. But if it's freedom that you're after, you have to bring it to more intense, to more honest practice. And looking at those moments that you get out from that silence to establish the outer order and to see behind that balance you are maintaining in your delusion, seeing behind that the same fears that always have been there, the same attachments, dependencies, and all of that. Sometimes it's not easy. Depends how long it has been, how successful you were in establishing that peace. Because there are some that even these periods that disturb, they are not many. Or they are entertained with other things that they cannot see that. And those times that you lose balance, well, you can see the ropes that are binding you. And that peace that you're experiencing is just circumstantial peace. And when the wind blows, it shatters if you don't run there and take care of it. So you may think you're in control, but you are still being played. And this idea that you can maintain a balance with the outer side, whatever that means, satisfying everything and everybody and still evolve, well, to become a better person, that helps. But the freedom, that is not the case. Okay, so that's it for today. Oh, there's something here. Wait. Okay, Josie. Well, my friend, should I repeat all of this? Okay. So, ego illusion of the I consciousness. Well, first of all, these are not really questions. It doesn't seem as questions. They seem as affirmations. Something like, like when you pick up a flag and you need to fight some cause or something like this. Well, this is what it sounds. How can a mind that is shattering with mantra, self-centered mental prayers, rituals, and worship can understand the stillness and silence of the mind and the soul? Well, this question looks that you have no idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry, no idea. The stupidity of traditional understanding can create the noise of sound pollution. How can it go beyond the mind? So all those traditions that have been there for so long, being tested through time, no value. It is easy to create these assumptions when you have not tested things. But you see, to really know things, you have to test it. But the problem to test spiritual practices is that you have to invest time in them. You have to have the proper motivations. Then you can see. Otherwise, you can only theorize and theorize. But I take it by that you are saying that, well, you must be enlightened, right? Because if you know that that is not the way, then you must know what the way is. You must have done it. Or maybe in your words, there is no way. So my advice to you is just forget about all those noises, those nonsense about spiritual practices, disciplines, and Mahatmas and all that things, and just be shanti, be shanti. Don't worry about those things. I would answer more to this, but I don't see a real question here. Correct me if I'm wrong, and you can send the question, but this just sounds like someone who is just pick up a flag and is in kind of ideological dispute. It's what it seems. It's not someone that is answering, asking a question. Especially because that which you're holding your flag against, in a way, I kind of represents that here, giving this satsang. So, what are you doing here then? You want to abolish all spiritual practices, all masters and everything so that you can preserve the path of others and help them to get enlightened. Oh, but wait, there's no way to help anyone. So what are you doing? Spiritual practices, the path to enlightenment, it's not something that you can discuss with anybody. Each one will have its own individual needs. And those who come and question these traditions, well, you see, to question tradition, there is something which is imperative. You have to try it. And to try it, if you go, for example, to test a spiritual practice, as a scientist would, okay, so I'm hearing that practicing meditation can do this and that, and he can test it, he can start to practice meditation. But if he only has the outlook of the scientist, it is almost impossible for him to reach divine consciousness. But he will experience other benefits from meditation that he can prove, he can attest for. But that has a limit because of his own intentions and motivations. So the only one that can really test is the seeker of truth. He is the only one. Because things have no intrinsic value of their own, more or less. But if you're tuned to that intrinsic value, if it is there, then you'll touch the life out of it. But what needs to be tested is these new theories, like this one, that are coming, that everything is just a way to enslave masses. It can be. It has been done a lot. But this is about motivations again. But tradition has shown through ages and ages, thousands of years, known that it has a life, it has a purpose, and it works. What needs to be tested is these new theories, like these ones, that those things have no value, there's nothing there, and all of these things. I understand the logic out of it, but logic is limited. But I'm not here to prove for you that has not this question, but that put here these opinions. I'm not here to disprove what you're saying. No point in that. This is for those who are seeking for truth. Others, if they are picking up this flag or some other flag, it makes no difference. Okay, so that will be all for today. Next satsang will be Sunday, 9 a.m. UTC -3. So for those who are in those circumstances previously described, pay attention to those moments, reevaluate where you're really standing, what you have really done so far, so that you can go beyond it, beyond. Okay, until Sunday, make the best out of it. Work hard, make it real for you. Much.